God, if my words could be twisted by sin, may they then fall upon the ears of these people like a seed on rocky soil and be washed away before they can take root. But if there's anything I can say that would let your love be heard, may it fall upon the ears of these people like a seed on fertile soil. May its roots grow deep, and may it bear the fruit of the Spirit within them. Therefore, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable unto you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. What does it mean to be transformed? Right? Does it mean to become something that we're not? Or could transformation also be the becoming of who we actually are? Such questions invite us to ponder the mysterious rift between essence and existence, between dream and reality, potential and actual. Right? We have been kind of exploring the freedom of the human experience, right? That God calls us into existence, but in doing so, imbues us with a freedom by which our existence is distinct from our essence. Right? Our will is distinct from God's will. God dreams us up, but in calling us into reality, the freedom we have in that reality distinguishes us from God. We are created in the image of our Creator, but we are not identical with God. The 20th century theologian Paul Tillich uses the word estrangement to talk about this rift between our potential in God and our actuality in the world. We are estranged from God, he says. When Jesus teaches us that love is capable of doing that all the rest of the laws seek to do, right? That is, that love is able to overcome our estrangement with God. There are all these laws, and we're like, okay, if you follow this law, then you won't offend God, then God won't be far from you. Right? All the holy list codes, all the thou shalt and thou shalt nots, the tablets that Moses brought down to the people. This was trying to keep the community in right relationship with God, to overcome this estrangement or the risk of estrangement. And Jesus says, it's love that accomplishes this. Or as Tillich puts it, love as the striving for the reunion of the separated is the opposite of estrangement. So in faith and love, sin is conquered because estrangement is overcome by reunion. I mean, and it's this beautiful reality that, for me, like, I'm not one who cries much. I don't wear my emotions on my sleeve. But if you show me a scene in a movie or a play or a book where estrangement is overcome, right, where characters are like reunited or where reconciliation happens, like that hits me deep. Because I think it is at the heart of God's love for us, the reality of this call to be reconciled and to have that estrangement overcome. So now trying to tie that all into our Transfiguration scene, we see kind of an overcoming of estrangement in a way. The Transfiguration scene is a demonstration of this perfect union between Jesus' essence and his existence. That's not true for most of us. right? Most of us, our existence is estranged from our essence because of sin. But for Jesus, his essence is his existence. And now he's been revealing this essence to his disciples slowly and with varying degrees of reception. And in Matthew's gospel, as I just said, as is with all the synoptic gospels, Mark and Luke as well, Jesus' transfiguration occurs after he has predicted his death and resurrection. Now, in that scene, as I mentioned, Peter has correctly identified Jesus as the Messiah, but then he reacts strongly to Jesus' prediction of his death. All right, this shall never happen to you, he cries. Now, Peter may have used the correct term to identify Jesus as the Messiah, the Christ. But there's a rift between Peter's expectations of the Messiah and the essence of the Messiah. And Jesus is quick to identify this rift. He says, "You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." And after this rebuke, he begins to teach his disciples that whoever wants to save their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for his sake will find it. What good would it be for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? And this line right here reminds me of the temptation of Jesus, right, in which he was shown all the kingdoms of the world and promised power over them if he would only worship Satan. And perhaps this is why Jesus so sternly rebukes Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." And then Jesus concludes this lesson with the statement that some standing there, that is among his disciples, will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, this has often, and was in the early church, interpreted by many as proof that Jesus will come again, and that the second coming would happen within that first century, the imminent second coming. But yet again, there is this rift between expectation and essence, right? The expectation of a second coming within the lifespan of the first apostles did not pan out. All expectations and predictions of a second coming within the past 2 millennia have not panned out. But the essence of Jesus' statement, the Son of Man coming in his kingdom, did come to pass. And some of those standing there did see it. Peter, James, and his brother John. Jesus took them up on top of a high mountain where he was transformed, where his essence shone through his existence. The Messiah and the kingdom of Peter's expectations, and of many expectations, was a king and a kingdom limited to the experience of this world. And within that experience, a suffering Messiah didn't make sense. So who can blame Peter for not wanting Jesus to suffer and die? Right? This is why he suggests setting up some tents there on the mountaintop, right? It's better to stay up here. That way you don't have to go back down into the world to suffer and to die. But once again, Peter is let down. Right up on this high mountain, which Douglas Hare points out is symbolic of this border zone between heaven and earth, between the material and the spiritual. Peter's expectation is transcended by the revelation of Jesus' essence and God's spoken affirmation of that essence. This is my Son, my beloved, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. So, going up in this story is actually a bit of a letdown. It's a letdown of human expectations insofar as we might expect a militaristic Messiah, a king who is willing to sell his soul to Satan for the sake of controlling all the powers and principalities of this world. But going up is also a revelation of Jesus' true essence, other than and above that expectation. Going up is also symbolic of the transformation of consciousness that takes place when Jesus' essence is revealed before his disciples, or when Jesus' essence is revealed to us. To truly see Jesus coming in his kingdom, we must go up, right? Transcend the consciousness of this world and enter into the border zone between heaven and earth, where what is currently known and experienced is overshadowed by the presence of God, where the voice of God speaks a word of affirmation to that essence, to the possibility, the transfigured reality of this world beyond our limited or misinformed expectations. And is this not the experience of faith? A going up, beyond what is seen physically, to see spiritually what is possible for us, for this world and God. And in that we gain greater trust in the words and teachings of Jesus, recognizing in them both a critique of the world that is and a revelation of the world that can be. Seeing Jesus transfigured has value only if it leads us to listen obediently to his divinely authorized teaching, suggests Doug Hare. That is to say, the Transfiguration is an emphatic reminder about who it is we are being called to listen to, learn from, and live for. Remember, there are two types of going up on the mountain. There's the kind that is led by Satan, in which all of our expectations and desires are met. And then there's the kind led by Jesus, in which all of our expectations and desires are transformed.